and welcome to Full Circle Purpose. Today, we're discussing healthy relationships, using discernment, having boundaries, and looking at God's design for connection. God designed relationships for growth, not confusion. Relationships should help you become who God created you to be, not distort your identity. In Scripture, we read in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, where it says, "It is not good that man should be alone." And in Proverbs 27:17, where it talks about iron sharpening iron. So we are to be in community, in relationship with one another, close enough that others can identify when we're acting out of character, when we need confrontation because our behavior is not in alignment with God's will, for those to encourage us to make those hard but right decisions and to keep at it when things get tough. I heard where Dharius Daniels mentioned that relationships are mirrors and magnifiers. They reveal what's already in us and amplify it. Healthy relationships sharpen. Unhealthy ones drain, confuse, and diminish. If a relationship constantly pulls you away from peace, purpose, or obedience, it's worth reevaluating, not ignoring. Because sometimes others in our lives can impact the direction we go in, the decisions we make. And so if those relationships are pulling us in a direction that we know is not good for us, we know that's against our purpose or against the way we want to go, then we need to make sure that those relationships have proper boundaries to give us the space to make those decisions and stay in alignment with the Lord and His leading and guiding. Because love without wisdom leads to damage. Love alone is not enough. Wisdom and discernment are required. In Philippians chapter 1, verse 9 and 10, love should abound in knowledge and depth of insight. And in Proverbs 19, verse 2, desire without knowledge is not good. So we need to make sure that in our romantic relationships, that we know the other person, because simply desiring that attraction that's there, because something new and shiny is attractive, but we want to make sure that we are operating in wisdom. Henry Cloud had mentioned you can deeply love someone and still need boundaries. Love does not require you to abandon wisdom, truth, or self-respect. Biblical love is not blind. It sees clearly and chooses wisely. Boundaries are biblical, not selfish. Boundaries protect what God has entrusted to you. In Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, it cautions us to guard our heart, for everything you do flows from it. And in Matthew chapter 5, verse 37, it says to let your yes be yes and your no be no. Regardless of the type of relationship it is, whether it is romantic or just familiar or friendly, we want to make sure that we are guarding our heart and the influence of those relationships, how they impact us. Henry Cloud mentions that boundaries define where you end and someone else begins. Jesus himself had boundaries. He withdrew, he said no, and he didn't explain himself to everyone. Boundaries don't push people away. They clarify who is safe to stay. I've had issues with learning that we even need to have boundaries in the first place. It wasn't something that was discussed or taught. And having issues with being people-pleasing just created an environment for chaos. to try to please people and have no boundaries. That doesn't set somebody up for success. So as I've struggled to learn this and kind of hit myself in the head of, gosh, I should have known this. Yes, this all makes sense. I should be more intentional of who I allow in, and the things that are me and the things that are them. And if they don't align, that's okay, but it just puts them in a different position in my circle of the people who surround me. Because even Jesus had his inner circle, his disciples, his followers, and the rest. So just because you might have chemistry with someone, it doesn't mean that you're compatible. Emotional connection does not equal spiritual alignment. In Amos chapter 3, verse 3, it asks, can two walk together unless they are agreed? And in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, it cautions to not be unequally yoked. So of course we can learn from this that if you're going to walk in alignment with God's will, you're walking with Jesus in your life. And if somebody isn't doing the same in theirs, how can you share the same path? And in regards to being unequally yoked, a yoke is something that's put on an animal as they go out to plow a field. And for the larger plows, well, you need two animals. If those two animals are unequally yoked, if they don't share the same strength, then the stronger one can have the tendency to pull the weaker one, and then your crops are not in a row, they're askewed and gone awry. So we want to make sure that we're not unequally yoked with someone who might be stronger to pull us off in a direction that's undesirable or not in line with our purpose. And that's the whole point of this channel, is that we are trying to achieve our purpose in life. So we want to make sure that we have those boundaries. We have the right people in our lives that are going to hold us accountable and encourage us when times are tough. And it's not easy if you've gone through and you haven't had boundaries and now you're trying to establish that, then you might receive some unfavorable reactions from others. Some might walk away. And I know it's tough, but ultimately it is for your good. Dharius Daniels mentions that attraction can mask compatibility. And Dr. John Gottman mentions that shared values matter more than shared feelings. Chemistry excites you, but compatibility sustains you. We want to make sure that our attractions to others, and it could just be our friends, but that attraction is not masking the malalignment of our purpose and our intentions. Because even if you're trying to lose weight, become responsible financially, or any number of new habits that you're trying to create, if you have a friend that's saying, hey, don't worry about it, let's just go shopping, or no big deal, let's get dessert, or don't save, let's go on this trip, let's spend our money carelessly, you only live once, then those are friends that are not in agreement with the values that you're trying to pursue. And if having a conversation with them to then establish those boundaries offends them and they go their separate way, well, they weren't doing you a service. I know that might be difficult. It's a tough transition. But I want to encourage you that past that, you'll find your new group of people that share the same values as you and that will encourage you and be there with you. So we want to pay attention to patterns, not potential. Who someone is consistently matters more than who they could become. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 16, it says, you will know them by their fruit. And in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 11, It says even children are known by their actions. Henry Cloud mentions that character is revealed through repeated behavior over time. And Darius Daniels says that potential without responsibility becomes a burden. So don't fall in love with potential while ignoring patterns. The potential might be there, and if you see somebody that is making the efforts to achieve that potential, then that's someone worth sticking with and encouraging and partnering and coming alongside with and sharing burdens and experiences. But if you see that someone is constantly being reckless and not intentional, and they're not showing any signs of making any type of effort for change and improvement, then it might be time to distance yourself from that relationship. Because healthy relationships require responsibility, not rescue. You are called to love people, not fix them. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 5, each one should carry their own load. And in Romans chapter 12, verse 18, if it is possible, live at peace with everyone. Henry Cloud mentions that taking responsibility for someone else's life disables growth. And Harriet Lerner mentions over-functioning invites under-functioning. You can support someone without carrying what God assigned to them. We are to be in relationship, in community, to help each other, to encourage one another. But if somebody's refusing to do their responsibility, that's not something that you need to pick up. Again, that's something that I can struggle with. If I see somebody that's not doing the things that they need to do, and I feel like, oh, I can come in and just quickly get that done and take care of that for them, I'm not doing a service for them, because I'm leaving them in the same state, if not worse, because now they're relying on me to do it for them. I become their crutch when they should be walking on their own 2 feet. So this requires discernment. I know it can be tricky to figure out, well, when do I help somebody? Because you're saying that we should help each other, but then you're also saying that I should let them do their own work. And the answer is yes. We have to use wisdom and discernment of when we're offering help for somebody to do something that they cannot do versus doing something for somebody that they will not do. And God sometimes uses distance for clarity. Separation can be a tool for revelation, not rejection. In Luke chapter 15, the prodigal son came to clarity in separation. While he was with his father, he felt that he was entitled, and he was, but not at the time that he was demanding for those things. He took them early and he left. And in that separation, he realized the mistake that he had made. And in Psalm chapter 119, verse 71, it says that it was good for me to be afflicted. Darius Daniels says that space can expose whether the relationship was healthy or just familiar. God sometimes removes people to restore you. Clarity often comes when attachment loosens. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees. If you're in and amongst the trees, you can't see the big picture of the forest. So sometimes when you're involved in a relationship, and I've gone through this where in the middle of things, I ignored bad habits and poor manners and rude behavior because I thought that they would eventually change, that things would improve, that it would become different. And I realize now that relationship had ended. Now I can see just how bad it was, that I didn't realize that when I was in the middle of it. So then how do we know with our relationships? We look to peace. because peace is a confirmation, not a compromise. God's will brings peace, even when it's painful. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 15, it says, "Let the peace of Christ rule." And in James 3:17, it says that wisdom from God is peace-loving. Henry Cloud mentions that anxiety often is a signal for boundary violation, and Dallas Willard says that God's voice brings calm clarity, not confusion. So if staying costs you peace, obedience may require letting go. So we use Jesus as our standard for relationships. Christ modeled truth, grace, boundaries, and sacrificial love. In John, we read that Christ was full of grace and truth, and that he tells us to love one another as he has loved us. Jesus loved deeply, but never chased approval. He corrected, confronted, withdrew, and released people when necessary. Jesus shows us how to love fully without losing ourselves. So in closing, I want to offer some questions for reflection. Take time in your evaluation of relationships and ask yourself, does this relationship draw me closer to God or further from peace? Am I loving wisely or emotionally? What boundary is God asking me to establish or honor? Because in Psalm 127, it says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it." So keeping relationships in our lives, if we're struggling and striving to maintain that relationship, we're laboring in vain. Let the Lord establish our relationships, and let the peace of God be umpire in our lives. An umpire in a game, they are what calls whether a play was good or there was a foul, or so likewise we need to have peace be the umpire to say whether this relationship is good or whether it should be out. So I hope that this word has encouraged you to evaluate your relationships, to set clear boundaries, to love wisely, and to follow peace. And if it has encouraged you, then please comment, like, share, subscribe. If you know others would benefit from them, invite them into this channel so that we can learn from each other and grow together. So I'll see you next time. Bye for now.